But the most important, what we really want to highlight here is that given the diversity of habitats that we have in this province, and the fact that we already have a strong credentials in tourism, we think that this province should really focus on boosting tourism and also facilitating that tourists come to see the wet country, also have excursions and tropical forests nearby, and it's very reaction. I think there's potential for doubling total tourist numbers from those today.
Then we have to change our development plan. Is that what they say?
Sounds like.
Yeah.
I'm quite sure about that. Maybe we should first listen to the audience. Okay. Thank you very much. That was interesting. And so your proposal is you would need how much time, how much money, resources? Well, it was such a pretty clear, very robust strategy. 6 months. $100,000. Okay, thank you very much. So now we would like to ask you to move.
What we think is that if you manage your forest and the surrounding water catchment more sustainably, you can improve water supply for your country, and thus anything exists there that a small amount of money can improve your current water plant or building another small one. And it's going to supply drinking water, supply water for agriculture and businesses, industry and ecotourism, which we understand is a new source of revenue. At the same time, this will mean that you can have a long-term supply of timber rather than allowing large companies to come in and cut down all the trees in the short term. You have sustainable forest management, which will ensure you have sustained delivery of timber products. You'll also have some non-timber forest products. It will improve livelihoods for local people and improve biodiversity. Basically, this is to do with the animals. We understand that tourists are very keen on getting out in the rainforest and seeing all the birds and mammals that you have. And we think it's important that you maintain this. And these will ensure sustainable livelihoods for the local people and a more equitable income.
So what you're saying that we need water and we need timber?
Yes.
And you're saying that our plant as a water plant is wrong?
I'm not saying it's wrong. I understand that you have an objective.
We have the same results doing it in another way.
Yes. However, it will require a modest investment in a small assessment. And you can save in the short term on the water side.
Mr. Gallagher, do you have any questions?
Well, as long as I reach my goal, fulfill my
And remember, elections.
yeah.
Next
Well,
year.
how long does it take to differ? Yeah, that's a
How long will it take to do?
Our plan has been 2 years ago.
We agree that you can still build the water plan, and this could also provide employment for local people, which I understand is important for the elections. But we would initially perhaps like to carry out a 6-month pilot study and to figure out the relationships between sustainable forest management and the water supply, and then that can help us decide how big a water plan we should build and how much we should think about it.
And you did four.
We do it in forest, give us more money.
But where's the revenue?
Where's the revenue?
The economy growth.
So, ecotourism, which we understand is rapidly expanding, and there's also going to be revenue from, so you're still going to get timber products from the forest, but instead of chopping them all down in the short term, it's going to be sustained income for the entire country. And there's also going to be revenues for if we have some kind of agroforestry, will be income from agriculture and non-timber forest products.
So you want me to change my plan? 5 years.
In your 5 year plan is to go.
Madam Secretary, Mr. Governor, we feel that one of the aspects,
My team have anything else to add?
we feel that one of the aspects that has not been fully considered is the impact of climate change. We feel that this assessment will help. I think you've experienced the floods and droughts in your country. We feel that this kind of study might help better buffer your country from the impacts of climate change by having a more resilient forest that can help regulate these floods and help buffer your country during times of drought.
And yeah, but maybe, could you help us also to get access to international financing for climate change? It could be interesting for us.
Certainly, we'll discuss the possibilities.
With sustainable forest management could identify code red plus.
That doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
How do you know that? How do you know it works?
One example where this works.
If you maintain your forest, you may get some international financing from red plus mechanisms. And at the same time, reduce the risks of flooding, as my colleague.
Okay, how much does it cost this? Like 4 months, huh?
Well, they know what each one is, so they just
That was a secret envelope. You don't know how much we spent.
$50,000.
Oh. To be modest.
Okay, on behalf of the government, because as I said, he has to leave, he has lunch
Thank you very much.
foreign investors. And I'd like to thank you very much for these 2 very interesting proposals. We, as the development committee, we will have a closer look at the studies and reports and all the written things you also gave to us, and we will take a decision later. But I would like to thank you very much. That was really interesting. I think I learned a lot of new things, new words.
Yeah.
And yes. And I feel, yes, our initial feeling that we need to revise the development plan might be correct. So
Yeah, let's see what's coming.
yeah, we can see what's coming out. We will see if we can get some additional funding from international NGOs in order to finance these studies. And yeah, we will let you know. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
Okay, so let's go back to the plan.
Just outside. I think so. Ask
ask any of our Korean colleagues. I'm sure they will be able to.
Okay, welcome back to the plenary. Do I have to use the microphone?
Only mic.
Okay, speak up. Yes, I will. Before we step to exercise 3, I just would like to ask you how you felt doing, as an expert in Baku, doing this exercise. If it was easy, it was hard. How was it to find some arguments for the development committee? Was that easy? Yeah, some impressions.
It reminded me of a class where a professor asked, why do we conserve biodiversity? And people began to make the arguments because it's the moral imperative. And he said, just, but why? What is the imperative? And we're all at a loss. And the role playing is a very effective exercise because the discourse, the metaphors, the language, the arguments are still in their infancy. And when we try and use the language like provisioning or regulating, we don't have the correct language and discourse yet to speak with the same level of articulateness that we speak about other things.
Anyone else?
I found it
Yeah.
I found it a bit confusing to talk about impact of a certain ecosystem service, depend on an impact, because it depends on whatever your development objective is, it depends on what it replaces. And so I think it took us a while to get around that. We were like, 1 word. Yeah, so that was not clear. I'm sure there's a reason why you do it the way you do it. But in terms of actually saying, coming up with plans, I found that pretty straightforward once you actually done the exercise. Yeah.
And one thing we would almost always observe during this first exercise is that, well, on the one hand, people start looking at ecosystems, ecosystem services, talking about all this stuff, and they forget to look at the development goals. But their task, or the task of this exercise, is to put on or to step into the role of the development planner. So you have to part from the development goals and not from the ecosystem biodiversity cycle. So this is one thing. And the other is a lot of people start coming up with solutions. So we did not ask for solutions yet. Everybody, of course, we are all working in this area. We have ideas on how to deal with these things, and we come up with solutions. But first we are, and this is actually the idea of the stepwise approach, to do a sound analysis or sound assessment in a systematic way, and do it step by step. Get all the information you need in order to identify better solutions and provide policy made at the end of the assessment. So sometimes it's really helpful not to think in terms of solutions, but to try to first to understand the whole setup, everything related to the setup. So this, I think this is really important. To listen first, to read, to understand, to analyze, and not to think about solutions. So basically, in summary, what did we see? We have a variety of development goals. They all depend and impact on ecosystem services in different levels. There are trade-offs among development goals. For example, the promotion of biofuels could affect timber production, could affect the water pollution quantity and quality, could affect cocoa production, tourism, and so on. And there are also trade-offs among different ecosystem services which are required for development. And this is quite important to understand. And I think the second group was also referring to other development goals which were not obviously included in the development plan, like equity, inclusion of other social groups. So this is also important and could be additional arguments. Because basically in a lot of developing countries, poorest groups, they depend directly on ecosystems and ecosystem services. They will be most effective, and this is nothing we will have to look at when we get to step 5 about distributional issues. Because all the time we choose one policy or one instrument, we will have to look at who's carrying the cost and who's carrying the benefits of those options. And this is also really important. But even more difficult to find good arguments for policymakers. And we have a really tough governor who's meeting the biofuel investors right now at lunchtime, so it's kind of hard work to get them convinced. Okay, now we will carry on with exercise 3. We will not finish it before lunchtime. Lunchtime is supposed to be at 1 o'clock. And as there are not a lot of options around here, my proposal would be to stay in a hotel and go to the restaurant. And it is kind of expensive, so what we did is we chose a realistic option, which is pasta. It's the cheapest meal. There are different varieties of pasta, and we will pay for the meal, but not for the drinks. And all this only because we want you to be back at on time at 2 o'clock. So there is the card, and just not right now, but when we start with the next exercise, we will pass around the card so we can order it in advance and so exercise 3, which is called carrying on with the assessment. The good news is that the development committee decided to contract growth. They got some additional funding from an international NGO, and they're really happy about that, and they want to spend on this assessment. They want to do a detailed assessment on the dependence and effects of development both of ecosystem services, and they got convinced by 2 teams, so they want to carry on with the teams, and they also hope to get more or additional ideas from 2 different teams which are kind of competing. So you're contracted, and your task now is to carry on with the assessment and to move forward to step 3, which is identifying the conditions and trends of the ecosystem services. Actually, none of the teams mentioned priority ecosystem services, which was the task. But the development committee has some special advisory, so they made the decision on which ecosystem services to prioritize. They chose 6: fresh water, raw materials, erosion prevention, soil fertility, the moderation of extreme events, and this especially on the occasion of the floodings, habitat and food. So this is your frame for the assessment. Usually at this point we would have the technical input on creator. So that is actually the idea. And you will get some information again on the sheet. The exercise, I would like to ask you to go back to the same team and start working until lunchtime. We will ask the menu, you will choose, and then you will, after lunch, you will still have some time to finish this exercise. And before we present it again to the development. So you will get the exercise and the presentation with assessment method.